But now, Connor, the big kahuna, the king of kings, our gold medal, my number one chapter for Percy Jackson Book 1, The Lightning Thief, is chapter 12. We get advice from a poodle.
Hello, and welcome to Notes from the Oracle. I'm Connor, and together with Jack, my co-host from Cabin 6, we're going beyond Half-Blood Hill to take a closer look at the electrifying mythology of Percy Jackson and the Olympians, Book 1, The Lightning Thief. The complete novel, completely reviewed.
That was pretty good, Connor. I didn't know what you were going to do for the open because we didn't have a chapter title, but that was solid.
I appreciate it. I had to write that down so that I wouldn't forget it.
We're here! We did it! Hooray! Confetti!
Yeah! No, it feels great. There was a certain level of finality when we did the final chapter that I don't think is quite as well captured as now properly doing the review. Talking about the book as a whole, there it was like we still had some chapter stuff to do.
It was tailored. It was still tailored and focused. We're going to go over everything. Everything's free game.
And before we get started, I want to let you all know that we are currently at 90 followers across all platforms, which means we're just 10 away from hitting our goal of 100 followers. And I know you all want us to see the Percy Jackson live-action movie so that we can review it for you. So if you're listening every week and you haven't followed yet, now's the time. And while you're at it, make sure to tell your friends so that we're guaranteed to hit that goal. But with that being said, I also just want to extend a huge thank you to all of you for joining us on this journey. We have enjoyed it so much, and we are so excited to continue sharing our thoughts as we go through the rest of the Reardenverse. I hope you're ready. So I thought we would start with just a brief recap of this book to
Let's do it.
remind ourselves of what happened here. I always think that the book must start so much closer to the summer solstice. And we'll talk about Chiron at length in this episode.
I was going to say, don't burn out too fast, man.
I won't. It is baffling to me that this book starts shortly after winter break. So that's where we start. Percy is at Yancey Academy. He's starting his spring semester, and he has not yet properly discovered he's a demigod, but while they are on a field trip to the Met, he is attacked by a Fury who has been posing as his algebra teacher. That is how the novel starts. Great starting point. We can talk more about that later as well. But we fast forward through most of the rest of the school year. Percy gets consistently gaslit by Chiron and his best friend Grover.
Yep.
We have the trip to Montauk. We get an introduction to Sally as well as Smelly Gabe. We get a little bit of the tension around Percy's parenthood as we start to introduce the themes. Then it's beeline for Camp Half-Blood. Spend a bunch of time there. More than I remember, honestly.
We spend a lot more time at Camp Half-Blood than I recalled. And honestly, I think that's a good thing. Again, we can talk a little bit more about the pacing later, but that is a huge, huge chunk of this book, and I think honestly is in its favor.
Yeah, that is almost a quarter of the novel, and that's a quarter of the novel well spent. We get a whole bunch of time there. We introduce many important characters. First and foremost, Annabeth, who will be one of our other main protagonists. We get to start feeling out what her character is like before her and Percy are forced to work together and be amicable, which is really interesting. We get to know more about Grover's quest to be a searcher, but then we also learn about other important campers and the dynamics of the camp on the whole. We start to learn about Clarice, we learn about Luke, but we also learn about what it means to be a Hermes cabin camper. We learn what it means to be a big three camper and to do things like capture the flag and what that means for a camper's reputation and all of this. We learn about quests, which is very important setup.
This is also where we learn a lot about how, the wonderful, whimsical, magical world of gods and monsters actually kinda sorta really sucks in a lot of big ways. Granted, the book starts off with, "If you feel something in you stirring, you might be a half-blood, you might be a demigod, stop reading because it sucks." So, it's not like it's a crazy revelation, but there are some real systemic issues that are dropped on the reader early on in the book.
Absolutely. This is where you really start to feel that opening crawl come to fruition, and you go, "Oh, I get why he said this.
Yes.
This is bad."
Yeah. "Hey, here's your spot on the floor. We've got 3 other cabins that are totally empty, but we're not allowed to go in there. Those are basically just monuments to gods who don't have children, are not supposed to have children, but, they still want their place. They still wanna be remembered."
Yeah,
Alright. Well, let's burn this place down. Fuck.
but it's great world setup, and like I said,
It is.
it sets all of those dynamics. So, Luke unleashes the Hellhound, which spurs Chiron into action, and now, like 2
Finally.
weeks before the summer solstice, 10 days I think it is, they set off on a quest. And they, of course, face their first obstacle, which is the Furies, followed by Medusa, all in one day. That might be the worst single day in the novel. I don't think it is, but it's up there.
It's definitely up there, and I would also it might be worse simply because they also don't have a great frame of reference, specifically Percy. He's still new to this stuff. So
Yeah,
that, in his perspective, is probably more harrowing and awful than dealing with, like, the underworld and the damned.
yeah, that's probably the literal worst day.
Mhm.
Now that I'm thinking about it, because I was like, they also have to do Procrustes and escape Lotus Casino and go to the underworld all in the span of one day. But that is its own thing. And technically, when they exit the underworld, it's the next day. So how much was one day versus the other day? We're getting in the weeds. Either way, they deal with the Furies and Medusa in the span of one day. It's awful. They sleep in the woods. They meet a poodle, which I remember this time, of course.
Of
I've
course,
drilled that
yes.
one
How
into
could
my
you forget?
brain. And that's when they go to Denver. They meet with Ares. They get his shield back after
Well, you
falling into
missed,
trap.
the St. Louis. They faced
Oh
the
my god,
Chimera.
yeah, I did skip St. Louis.
You
Oh, no, they're just
remembered the poodle, but you forgot St. Louis and the Chimera.
no, 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 they're backwards in my notes. So I've got they go to
Oh.
Denver and then they go to St. Louis, which is also objectively stupid because I understand where all of these places are because I've lived in both of them for an extended period of time. So, like, I don't have an excuse. If you're going west, you would definitely hit St. Louis first. I apologize. They fight the Chimera in St. Louis, then they do the Denver stuff. They have to get derailed in Vegas, which is where we have the Lotus Casino. They escape. They hit Procrustes. They go to the beach before that. Then they do the whole underworld thing. They have their big moment with Hades. They pop up into the bay, and then they have to have a battle with Ares. And it's just like God after God after God at the end of the book because it's
Yeah,
Hades, then
stacked.
Ares, then Zeus and Poseidon, and then Sally, the true queen.
The true queen, the goddess. Yeah, the goddess herself, capital G.
Hmm. And then you have the last chapter with Percy and Luke and all of the camp wind down, which is a nice place to end the novel, I think. So that is it. That's the quick recap of
Whew.
everything we have seen so far in this book. Or not so far, that's everything we have seen in this book.
Yeah. Kinda weird saying that, huh?
Yeah, it's a lot less when you break it down into condensed bullet points, but
Really?
there's a lot
I
of
was
good
gonna
stuff
say the
between
exact
there.
opposite. I was
Yeah?
thinking that this was a lot. This was dense, a lot happened.
A lot did happen. There's a lot of distinct things. I was more meaning it's weird that I was able to condense that down into less than 10 minutes worth of summary
Ah, yes.
for what we have spent in total somewhere around 40 hours, 48 hours talking about.
Yeah, well, that's because we yap a lot.
That's true. I mean, that's what we're doing right now.
That's true.
But that brings us to the meat. let's talk book. Now, Jack, in the future, I think there will be a sort of ceremony for placing this on a tier list. But right now, we've got no reference point. So I'm hesitant to give this a tier. What do you think?
I agree, but if I were to gun to the back of my head, I have to pick a spot on a tier list from, we'll say, like, when I say D tier, are we going F to S? Or like
Yeah, we'll
D
go
to
F to
S?
S. Well,
F to
F or D
S?
to
Okay,
S. We'll see if we need an F tier.
we'll see. The good news is it's not gonna go that low.
No.
I would consider this to be, like, high A. This is a high A tier book.
I don't like shooting in the dark, but I agree. I think if I were to place it as a single book against like all other books or my memory of other Percy Jackson books without giving them the same level of attention as we did this one, high A, S for nostalgia factor, but I
Mhm.
don't think that nostalgia factor should color where it actually fits among the series. But that's a lot of praise. This is a great book. This is just a wonderful thing to read. It's so fun.
Yeah, I am in the exact same boat as you. And the reason that I'm not putting it in S tier right off the rip is because I do think that this is a great first step and foundation that gives Rick more room to grow and iterate and build upon.
Yeah, there's something to do from here. And
Yes.
in a lot of ways, he will. He will execute on unspoken promises of, I've introduced X so we can do Y. And we're going to
Mhm.
do that. I think a solid high A is a good place to start. And of course, we can always adjust. But I broke down kind of the general things that I think we wanted to talk about. And because we just went over the whole review of the book, let's start with pacing.
Mhm.
Because when you talk about the number of distinct locations in what is this, like 200 something pages? Oh god, it's so much more than that.
Say, I think it's like 300 something.
Almost 400 pages. We get to see and do a lot. And that's with spending a quarter of the book just under at Camp Half-Blood. So you get a nice variety. I feel like there are definitely some slow points. I'm suddenly aware of why all of the live actions choose to cut Camp Half-Blood, which is disappointing.
Mm.
I'm aware of why, and I still disagree with their choice to,
Mhm.
but when you start looking at, like, how much tangible stuff there is, you have to move pretty quickly to fit all of that into a movie or an 8-episode TV show because you didn't choose to give it the appropriate number of episodes.
Mhm. I do get that. I still think that the time spent at Camp Half-Blood is some of the most important time in the entire novel,
Absolutely.
personally. So, I understand the idea of like, Camp Half-Blood, that's the boring place. That's the boring place where they don't do anything. We wanna go on the quest. We gotta show the quest. I would argue that there are different areas of the book that could very easily be cut on the quest itself while still giving more time to Camp Half-Blood, and it would create a much more enriching and fuller adaptation. And
I
that,
agree.
one of the things that comes to mind immediately is something that I'm pretty sure both adaptations for the film and the TV show did was Krusty's. Like, sorry, Procrustes, you kinda suck. I I never need to hear about you or your mattress shop ever again.
Yeah, no, there's
The
definitely some
poodle.
other cuttable things.
Mhm.
Yeah, the poodle,
The
which I
poodle
think
can be
does
skipped.
get cut in both versions.
Little things like that, kind of the brief asides, almost like the little mini side quests that they go on. Some of them I think are indispensable. Others are just kinda like, "This feels like filler."
Mhm,
And I think that's
absolutely.
where the book struggles a little bit with pacing. And I can't fault it too much this time around because it was the first time, right? Rick didn't know what would work and what wouldn't work. So throwing kind of everything you can at the wall and seeing if it sticks makes sense. And also putting it all on the field and saying, I have no idea if I'm going to get a second book. he had no idea this was gonna be a huge success, right? This could have
Yeah.
been a one and done.
And it
So
ends up being everything that it is, and so
right,
suddenly there's so much more to do and play around with in that world, and maybe we didn't need to cram all of these mini side quests in there.
yeah. But I think generally speaking, the book moved at a clip. It was fast. I think it was well paced. There were a couple parts that I think we refer to it as dragging, but I think maybe those are more just like it's actually breathing a little bit in
Mhm.
comparison to other books that would be considered kind of average pacing. And something else that I struggle with a little bit is the wrap up. The ending is really, really fast.
Yeah.
And I do understand the idea of how much more is there really to talk about after the bolt is returned and Percy talks with Poseidon. But I feel like we needed another 2 chapters after that as opposed to just 1. It's like, "Oh,
Mhm.
and we're back at Camp Half-Blood, and then time skip, and I'm at Camp Half-Blood, and then time skip, people are leaving, and then time skip, oh, big twist. The prophecy comes to fruition. Big twist, there's a scorpion now, ooh."
It
And
almost
then the
felt
book
like
is
there was a
done.
little bit more room for that natural buildup for Luke to happen over the last month that they were at camp.
I just almost wish, and maybe there's a reason that this didn't happen, but how I would have paced it is there's a chapter after he goes to Mount Olympus, and that's the Percy returns to Camp Half-Blood. This scheme has been thwarted, but the overall machinations of Kronos are obviously not even really beginning to surface.
Mhm.
That is when we get Luke's confrontation with Percy, and then we get another chapter after that, and that's the goodbye chapter. That's where Percy gets to say goodbye to Grover. That's where he gets to say goodbye to Annabeth. And that's where he has to decide where does he stay. I
Actually,
feel
that's
like
a
that
good
would have worked
point.
really well.
I hadn't even realized, I think, in the moment that Grover doesn't get to be privy to the betrayal at the end, and that does feel like a missed opportunity for him to
Mhm.
get some level of closure in this book, because we do the slow uncovering of what happened with Grover, Annabeth, Thalia, and Luke in the past. And I think it would have been nice for Grover to get some closure of like, that guy was being a dick to me on purpose.
Yeah. Yeah,
Because
I agree. It's
absolutely.
just we had all this great stuff, and then it's just kinda like, I don't know, it ends. Like, damn, no pillow talk? Like, was it good for you too? Fuck. We got nothing?
Yeah. Well, and actually, that's what I was going to say is there are a few sections that don't quite feel like they move as fast, especially I think by the nature of how we read it. You made a good point by saying that the novel was probably breathing when we thought it was dragging. But when you're kind of reading each chapter as a self contained thing, you want that chapter to have its own breathing room. And so
Mhm.
suddenly a chapter like Medusa, where you have this gradual buildup, which is the breathing room, the slow trickle of information before it all slams into one another in a big chaotic conflict at the end of the chapter. It feels a lot more natural and well paced. Again, given the nature of how we were reading on this kind of week to week basis. But the only other thing that I really thought was notable is you would almost expect to spend simultaneously more and less time in the underworld. Because the underworld is this huge, big thing, and then we're there for only 2 chapters. But in those 2 chapters, there's a bunch of like, and then we were walking through the fields of asphodel,
Mhm.
which is like, it's a very odd dichotomy. But generally speaking, I do think the pacing is incredible, especially for the idea that it's written for young readers. And I think the side quest, I'm going to call it a problem, but it's not like a huge problem. The side questy nature of the book, I think, is also inherently tied to this book's split between mystery and classic hero's journey fantasy.
Mhm.
Because if there wasn't a mystery, you could do more reveals and have more climactic moments and then drops and then rises throughout the novel as you uncover information. Whereas here, it's kind of all playing to the one big reveal when you get to Hades' palace, which is a solid 75 to 85% of the way through the novel.
Yeah. I struggle walking the tightrope of, like, again, we'll refer to it as the side quest issue, even though it's not necessarily a problem. I like the idea that this book is a road trip book. One, I've said that before, but also that it's like an epic. It's supposed to be like this big, sprawling, expansive Greek epic poem of old in modern day. And of course,
Yeah.
there's going to be all these random tangential things happening. My issue is more with, and I think we're maybe beating a dead horse with this. I know how good Rick is at being economical with his writing and how he is able to pace out those little side quests so well that when it's subpar, it really sticks out.
Absolutely. It's definitely a little bit of like this is great, but I've seen better, so it's diminished.
Yeah, it's a little bit of a kind of a performance punishment. I know what you're capable of. I expect better, which unfortunately is what
Well,
Chiron would say.
oh, yeah.
Speaking of beating this dead horse, you want to talk about characters now, man?
Yeah, let's talk about characters. I think let's start with positive. Everybody knows the dead horse that we're gonna beat on.
Uh-huh.
But you know what?
Okay.
Let's beat a different dead horse first. Let's talk about favorite characters.
Mhm.
Let's start with the positives. I think that unsurprisingly, this book absolutely shines in the main trio for sure. And there are others as well. Especially reading at this pace, my perspective on Annabeth completely shifted. My love for Grover skyrocketed. And honestly, Percy is probably still my favorite, which is insane given how much heavy lifting the other characters are actually doing and the spectrum of emotion that they cover and what they get to do. There's a lot of great interplay. I think that the deities chosen for their godly parents are really well done. I love the interplay of like the Poseidon and Athena dynamic. And I think in this very human centric novel, it's good to have someone like Grover, who is your, I know all about this. I could tell you these things, but also is a very grounded, like looking at it from a very different perspective, which is really cool.
Yeah, I agree with you. I was surprised, and I know our perspectives are gonna be a bit different because, again, you have much more of a living memory of these books and
Mhm.
characters, and mine is definitely faded over time and kind of a facsimile of a facsimile in some cases. I'm surprised how much I enjoyed Percy. I gave him a lot of shit throughout the course of this book, and especially at the beginning, because I came into this book thinking that I was kinda gonna dislike him or find him a bit irritating. I don't know why that got into my head, but somewhere over the years, I just disliked him a little bit. That's gone. He has really cemented himself as a compelling and multi-layered and fun hero and protagonist that I wanna root for. I wanna root for. And it shocked me how many parallels that I kept being able to draw to, like, Peter Parker Spider-Man.
Mhm. That was an interesting one, but the moment you brought it up the first time as like, I think Rick would write a really good Spider-Man,
Yeah.
it clicked. It was like, "Oh, there
Mhm.
are so many little parallels." And I think that is part of what makes this book so fun is Percy is endearing. He's
Yeah.
sassy and sarcastic and can be an asshole, but when it comes down
Mhm.
to it, he's a good person, he's trying his best, and he's just so easy to root for. He's just
Yes,
so
absolutely.
easy to root for, which is fantastic. That's absolutely what you want out of your main protagonist.
Yeah, he earns his impertinence, which is not an easy feat. I feel like writers and authors have really struggled with that by making a fallible hero that is prone to wrath or ignorance or impulse and not have it be just grating and frustrating. With Percy, it got to a point where it's like, bro's actually kind of smart. He's making pretty decent decisions with what he's been given, and his heart's in the right place. You can't fault him for that. So when he gets spiteful and does stupid shit or sends Medusa's head to Mount Olympus, I'm in his corner for it.
You're cheering along.
Yes.
Absolutely. And part of it is he gets smacked down when appropriate.
Yes.
He goes into a fight and it's like, I was ill prepared for this. I am getting creamed right now.
Mhm.
It's like, good. Because you know when he comes back, he's gonna be like, man, I'm really grateful that I didn't play it like I did last time because that was stupid.
Yeah. Well, I
He's earned it.
remember during the Capture the Flag chapter, we had discussed about, is Percy a Mary Sue? Do we think he delves into that territory? And we both decided, no, he definitely doesn't. And that, I think, stays true throughout the course of the entire book and really solidifies my belief, at least. He
Yeah.
does have, much like this series, room to grow. He's got a great foundation, but there's a lot more that he can do and a lot more to learn. And his struggles do feel real. They don't feel superficial or self-imposed. And in the instances where they might be a bit self-imposed, such as his drive to get his mother back above all else, or his, again, word of the day is going to be impertinence towards the gods, they don't detract from the story as a whole, and they don't feel so uncharacteristic that you're like smacking the side of your head and saying, "What are you doing?"
No, absolutely. And I keep using the word endearing. Percy is an endearing character because a lot of his problems are very well, you were saying that they're earned. They're not hit you in the face with it and you're going to go with this and this is your problem. When he's at school and we see him at Yancey Academy just having a miserable time, you're like, whatever. He's just complaining. He's at this nice ass school. And then you get to Montauk and you start digging into the home life, and it's like, oh, it makes sense. And throughout
Mhm,
the book, every time that you get another peek into like that, what makes Percy Percy? What was his childhood like? It always clicks right into place, like perfect puzzle pieces. It's just like, oh, you can see some of that impertinence in Sally, but you can also see the grace that she has imposed upon to him. You can see the lessons that she taught him, all of that sort of thing in very meaningful ways that I think come across really well in his personality.
mhm. So those are my flowers for Percy. Other characters. Again, I agree with you. I think the main trio definitely shines the brightest. That makes sense. It would be kind of weird if they didn't. My love for Annabeth has only been bolstered.
I
There
agree.
is a different perspective on which, again, maybe rereading this as an adult or doing it in the format that we are, where we just take one chapter at a time over a long period and really savor each of the little details, has shifted my view on her. It has only become more and more positive, but I love how she is this pragmatic person that uses her pragmatism as a veil over her innate optimism and hope. And that is something I either forgot about or never picked up on as a kid. And I love that. I find that so compelling.
So we're getting a little bit into my talk for what I was talking about for kind of expectations versus reality.
Then we can put a pin in that because we can get to that in a bit.
But I just want you to know, I'm feeling what you're saying about Annabeth, and I 100% agree.
Awesome. Then
I
that pin is all for you, my friend. It's right there.
I love it. We'll come back to that.
Okay.
Let's let's hit another character while we're talking about characters we love that we've talked about so much. Everybody get out those bingo sheets.
Well, hold
If
on, wait, hold on. Before the bingo sheets, wait a minute. I'm sticking a finger in the air. Hold on.
you wanna do Grover
One more
first? We could
character.
do Grover first.
I gotta do Grover first, mainly because, and we can put another pin in Grover because it'll get into some of the stuff we'll talk about in a bit. I am shocked how much I loved Grover in this book. I'm shocked. I really don't have anything more substantive to add other than I thought I was gonna fucking hate this guy. I thought I was gonna be mildly irritated with Percy. I remember not liking Grover. I found him annoying, I didn't find him funny, I found him kind of useless and dead weight, and maybe I'll come to that conclusion as we read through the other books. But dog, Grover MVP this book. He was the heart of the group. He came in clutch when it mattered most on several occasions, and I loved all his one-on-ones with Percy. Every single one.
I've just been nodding along, and I did think you were gonna save this for expectations versus reality, but we can get into it a little bit right now. Grover is, as you put it, the heart. He is the glue that holds this group together, and it's in subtle ways too. I'm thinking about the chapter where Annabeth kicks Percy to get him to say something nice. And he's like, "I was gonna say something nice anyway."
Mhm.
Because it just goes to show that is the thing that I think Percy and Annabeth can really connect on. Just an unwavering love for Grover.
Mhm.
They would both do anything for him because he would do anything for them. And that is so cool because that is what level sets for Annabeth, I think, and is kind of a turning point for her when it comes to Percy of like, every single time that it comes down to like your safety or my safety and Grover's safety, you pick ours. And I think she looks at that and she's like, "Damn, he just loves this guy. That is his best friend and he is unwilling to compromise on Grover's safety or hers, someone that he's known for much less time." And I think that's really fucking cool because Grover is absolutely the same way. And dude, he throws himself out there. He gets in on
Yeah.
pizza, like
Uh-huh.
every
Yeah.
opportunity.
He avenged his Uncle Ferdinand and then some, dude. It was crazy.
So good. You mentioned specifically that every single time he and Percy have a close one-on-one moment, that hits. And I completely fucking agree. Those two are the and you would expect it to be Percy and Annabeth, and they move the plot forward. But Grover is the beating heart of the book. Those downtime moments where Grover and Percy just talk to one another are like some of those chapters where we're like, oh, this really drags. But you know what rocked?
Yes.
Percy and Grover chatting. Like, I don't
Mhm.
remember anything else from the Gladiola the Poodle chapter except for the poodle's name, apparently. But I remember Percy and Grover's heart to heart.
Mhm.
I remember that. I remember from the Capture the Flag chapter. I think I remember more about Percy and Grover's heart to heart about being a searcher than I do about Capture the Flag, which is insane.
Yeah.
And I think you just don't remember that they're part of these big chapters when they are part of the bigger chapters because it's this softer moment
Mhm.
between big events. But it really is, it's not padding out the novel. It is
Yeah.
It is what you're there for. That is where the growth happens. It's so good. And I
Mhm.
do think that I appreciate that more as an adult because now I see the maturity that Grover brings. I think that
Oh,
you could see him
yes.
as a child and be like, "Ah, this fucking rules follower, head ass."
Yeah.
Like,
I don't give a fuck if you can't see the stars. I want Percy to go fight more monsters.
yeah. But in a weird way, as you get older, it's like, wow, I see a lot more of myself in Grover than I do in Percy.
Yeah, a lot of what Grover talks about and his purpose is very, very somber, and it just has a weight to it that is, I think, lost on the target audience, which I know is one of the most fart sniffing things that I can say, but I think it's true. I think Grover is unfortunately too mature, too mature for the bulk of kids that were reading this for the first time. But coming back to him, man, what a welcome surprise.
Yeah, no, 100%. I was thinking about it more, and I think the last thing I have to say on Grover is it's interesting to think about him and Annabeth as foils to some extent, because both of them, what they really want is to get out into the world.
Yeah.
But the difference is that Annabeth wants to get out into the world because she's been cooped up. Grover has a purpose. And I think that is part of what separates him and her in that maturity department. He knows what he wants from
Yeah.
getting out into the world. He is here to do something more than just to see and be like, wow, this is beautiful. Yes, it is. And I'm here to protect it. I'm here to further it.
And
I think his purpose
and
is very important to his character.
I'm gonna build off on the idea of Annabeth and Grover being foils even more because I'd never considered that, and you're so right. Annabeth, we talked about, and again, I know we're kind of jumping forward a little bit, but we're in the character section right now, so I'm doing it.
Absolutely.
She is this on the surface pragmatic pessimist that's always planning for the worst case scenario, barring a few exceptions that didn't make sense. But overall, that's kind of what she does. But beneath the surface, she is optimistic and hopeful and has a wanderlust, the beauty of the world. She wants to experience these things. Grover, who on the surface is a lot softer and seems to be more of a just generally whimsical character, is very poignant and sad at the state of the world and angry. And even though there is still plenty of beauty, he's recognizing that that beauty is not just fading, it is faded.
There's such an underlying fervor to Grover, an intensity that I think, to continue with the foil narrative, Annabeth presents the intensity top level. But when you start digging in, there's some unsurety and there's a scared little kid, to
Yeah.
be honest. Whereas Grover on the surface seems like the cowardly member of the group, but when you dig down, he is the most devoted to his purpose and his cause and why he's there. And it comes out in such small lines and moments that make a huge difference to me. Like when he says, I'll come back as a flower, go without me, take your mom.
Mhm.
Annabeth is, I'll go down fighting, I'll stab all of them. There's not an acknowledgement of like, it would be the end though. Grover is like, I can make my peace with just being a flower and knowing that you two will continue what I have wanted, that I have made some change on your perspective. And that's good enough. Whereas Annabeth, again, is like this, and not in any sort of insult, I might add. She's got this very grandiose idea of, I want to build something huge that gods and mortals alike will see and remember me by. And all Grover wants is to make the world a better place for people who will never remember him.
Yeah.
And that is the dichotomy. And I think it also does a good job to separate this novel. It plays with this idea of, again, mankind versus the divine. Grover seems to represent the intangible third thing of there is the gods, there are the
Uh-huh.
mortals, and then there is Grover, who represents nature and true freedom, but
Mhm.
also, as you put it, this sadness. There is no anger, there is no fire, there is no worship, there is no greatness. There's just melancholy understanding, and it's beautiful.
Mhm. Yeah. Whew. All right. That's the trio. Everybody, you can get your bingo cards out. Connor, before we beat the shit out of Chiron, let's talk about our favorite character, Luke.
Baby, it's Luke
It's
time.
Luke time. Now, I have thoughts, obviously, but I am dying to hear yours.
I So funny enough, I don't have that much to say about Luke for two reasons. One, we have talked him to death.
Yes.
Two, he's in this novel less than you might think. He worms his
Mhm.
way into some places that you wouldn't expect, some dream sequences, the iris message, but what he provides, especially upon a reread, and that's the one thing I'm going to preface all of this with, Luke is such a more complex, interesting character on a reread. I think if you look at it as if you read this for the first time, you'd be like, "Oh, he was the bad guy the whole time? That's kinda weird. That doesn't really click." But when you know everything and you can pick out all the small details, It is so cool, and he is consistently a narrative foil to Percy. He has basically all of the same problems as Percy, outside of some of the home life details where they are like quite literal perfect inversions to some extent, where his mother goes insane. Although, to be honest, despite her best efforts, she's in heart in the right place, trying to do the right thing. Sally just gets luckier. And by Sally's luck and Percy's learned grace from his mother, he is a completely different character. And I think that's where a lot of what makes Luke shine comes from.
Mhm. Okay. Are those your thoughts? Because I'm gonna
Those are
jump
my
in.
thoughts. I wanted to
Okay.
give you some space. The floor is yours.
Absolutely. Connor, I totally agree. I think that if we did not know what Luke would do, what he would become, the role that he plays in everything, as a s in, the perspective of a series, he'd be kinda like, "Eh." Be like, "Oh, I agree." I actually think, and I don't remember this as a kid, but this was also a very long time ago. Hearing that Luke was the twist villain would be kinda, like, underwhelming. Like, "What the fuck? Why? Okay, sure. I guess that guy, he was neat. He was, like, the cool older brother type. We didn't really see him a whole lot, though." But he becomes infinitely more compelling with the context of who he works for, his purpose, why he does what he does, his background. And with that context, he steals the show with literally everything he does in this book. And maybe that's just us glazing him because I don't know, we're bored and we're trying to dig for stuff. But I don't think so. I really don't. I think that Luke is a testament to how a kind of boring villain can retroactively be made phenomenal if built up properly over time. The fact that this mid kind of boring dude made Connor and I squeal and clap our hands together like a couple of happy seals every time he was on the page doing stuff or saying something or making a strange face or whatever is a testament to how good of a foil and antagonist that Luke is overall. So he was, I really thought, going to be my favorite character. I really thought he was. And honestly, overall, he might be. But I can't give him that title because, on its own merits, as this book, not as a series overview, he's kind of boring.
No, I totally agree. I wanted to talk about him in this section because he is the major antagonist outside of the godly ones.
Mhm.
He just has no right being a favorite character, despite being really, really cool. And again, we've harped on this one and barked up this tree so many times, but I do think that that again comes back to Rick's mystery writer background. Luke is a
Mhm.
great twist villain when you already know he's the twist villain.
Mhm.
It does make me think about the movie that we shall not talk about, although we're going to talk about it a little bit at the end of this. The movie that shouldn't be named does have Luke show up at the end, and you're like, what the fuck is this guy even fucking doing?
Yeah.
That is
Uh-huh.
when it is the most stupid, like, that guy. And I hate to say it, and I mean nothing ill toward the actor. They picked someone who looked a lot more menacing for the TV show, and I think that works because you're
Mm.
not getting a lot of menacing moments from him. So to play it up that he's got this dark, brooding kind of attitude and look to it and the dark hair, and they make the scar a little bit more obvious. I think that
Mhm.
goes a long way to making Luke be less of like a, "What? You're the twist villain?"
Mhm.
And more of like a, "Yeah, I saw that coming."
Mhm. Which is good and bad, I think, because I think a good twist villain is one that you should be able to maybe piece together, but still not be certain about until it happens. So to have the guy that's like, "Oh, you're clearly bad. You're clearly evil." Like, then it's not a twist villain, it's just like, "Alright, when's the reveal?" So, I think this book gets away with it because we have the benefit of the other books to build on it, and even this book in itself does a little bit of that, but the scale and intent and purpose of Luke is only built up over time, and being able to, from page 1, say, "I know what Luke is gonna do," and then see everything happen in real time with that context is a game changer.
Absolutely. And I fully agree with what you were saying. I think that Luke is not a compelling villain in this novel, and the novel, as you put it, gets away with it, in
Mhm.
part because it's so fucking fun.
Yeah.
Every other part of it is just so much fun that if you're not reading through the lens of, like, knowing what Luke is doing, you don't give a shit, and the end happens, you're like, "Well, that was weird, who cares? Where's the next one?"
Right.
Those are my thoughts on Luke. Still love the guy, and frankly, I'm so excited to see more of him in the
Yes.
next 4 books.
Oh my god, yeah.
That's my big takeaway on Luke. I want Luke to be one of my favorite character or to be my favorite character in one of the future books.
Mhm.
I I need that, and I don't instinctively remember that ever being the case in my reads before this, but I'm really hoping that this different lens will, like, I'm gonna get to one of them and be like, "Yeah, that shit rocks."
Mhm. Hey, you and me both. It sounds like we're on the same page. But
I get you. That was
yeah,
good.
because like books. You
I
know,
get
because
it.
like a book. Do you wanna shit on Chiron now, or are we gonna hold on that still?
Oh, we're getting into the next section. So let's talk preconceived notions versus what the novel actually delivered.
Mhm.
And I think that that is the most appropriate place while we're still talking about characters to talk about this fucking guy.
This absolute fucking buffoon, this mook. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Do you want to go
What
first? Do you want me to?
this guy's booty cheeks. I'm really disappointed. I'm really disappointed. I specifically remember loving Chiron, or at least I thought I did. I thought that I enjoyed him. I thought he was wise and, again, like that teacher that you would want to have. And he always had some sort of answer. You felt safe with him. But this guy just fucked like everything up until he said a couple of actually somewhat smart things
I was
in like
about
the
to
last
say,
chapter.
it took this guy 21 fucking chapters of bullshit before he
Yeah.
ever had one word of wisdom.
Yeah, pretty much. To be totally honest, the wisdom wasn't even that groundbreaking. That's just common sense.
The bar was so low at that
It
point.
really was. It made me upset reading the book, but now it just makes me sad. Like, what happened? So I am hoping that he is rectified. Rick stops having him be an actual detriment. We start seeing some use out of him in the future. Otherwise, I'm going to be so angry every time he opens his mouth. And I don't want that. I don't want that to be the case. I don't want to be mad all the time.
God, I gotta imagine he gets better, but dude, talk about a rough starting point.
It's just everything that is sloppy about this book, I feel like is embodied by Chiron and the decisions he makes.
Mhm.
They are decisions that make seemingly no sense. It's a timeline that makes no sense. It's when the rules of the world that are set in this book are actively broken all the time. And it all comes back to him. Even in the first couple of chapters, which we'll talk about chapters a bit down the line, specific chapters, but in the first couple of chapters where we don't know the rules, we don't understand the mechanics of the gods and monsters, he does stuff or doesn't do stuff that we would later learn makes no fucking sense in terms of
Completely
how things are
counterintuitive.
supposed to happen. Yeah. And we're not even talking about how dumb he was with the entirety of Percy's timeline when it came to training. There is nothing more to say about that other than what the actual fuck you wanted him to fail. You wanted Percy to fail.
Heracles, Achilles, they all had more time, more training. If only,
Ah,
if only you had more time to train, Percy.
if only I found you like 6 months ago or something. I don't know. But it was beyond me. I just couldn't. I had to teach class and I had to grade all those papers that I willingly did, and I just knew it was getting dangerous, but I couldn't skip out. I agreed that I'd teach the rest of those classes. It's like, oh my god, I just don't understand. I don't understand where your head's at, man.
Duty had a pension to earn.
You get a pension to earn. It's like, I'm tenure track, Percy. I'm not tenured yet. I need to work towards that. I need to pay my
Ah,
dues. Don't you understand? And if that means you only have 10 days to save the world, so be it.
this is not my problem. You're the hero.
You're the hero here. At this point, I'm looking down with just a sallow, sad, disappointed expression at this pile of goo and paste that was once Chiron. What happened to you?
Yeah, but there's nothing else to add. Okay.
All right.
You still got
I'm
that pin
throwing
in
the
there
club
for me?
down. Yep, got that pin. There it is. It's all yours, man.
All right, I'm pulling it out. It's gray, just like her eyes. We're talking about Annabeth.
Yes.
I feel like you and I went into this the same way. We see Annabeth as a pragmatic, rooted in logic individual, or at least I do. And this book was eye opening because there is that surface level pragmatic Annabeth, but her character arc spells a completely different story. So I would kind of take this and start by talking about Annabeth's arc for the novel is opening up to others and specifically learning to admit she was wrong, opening up to others who frustrate her, like Percy. And it is really cool to see how well that ties into reconnecting with her family, realizing that she had been overly harsh, maybe not even wrong, but certainly vindictive to some extent, and having to admit that she did not go into it with the right headspace. That is so big of her. And as an adult, that strikes me. That is a child learning maturity over the course of the novel. And that is really cool to see. And I think part of the reason that we end up viewing her as more pragmatic in the later novels, one, is that this character arc does kind of play out over this one, but I'm sure the undertone is still there. But two, especially by the time of the Heroes of Olympus series, there's so many different character perspectives that I doubt that someone like Frank or Hazel or Leo is ever seeing past Annabeth's front, past the pragmatic leader lancer member of the group who you go to for a plan, the smart one, but not ever as Annabeth, a genuine, heartfelt person. I just think that's lost, perhaps just on some of the other characters, not on her.
I have nothing else to add. I would be repeating literally everything you said. The recalibration that she got throughout this book in my mind was not quite as astonishing as like a Grover, but
Mhm.
still definitely pretty substantial. And for all the reasons you said, it made me love her even more. I'm not going to gild that lily. I think you said it all perfectly.
Well, thank you. It's a phenomenal character arc for her, and it's a lot of fun. And it really does make me excited to read the future books with this lens in mind. And I wonder if, especially once we get to like the Heroes of Olympus series, I wonder if there will be little things that she does that the other characters write off that I go, I wonder if Rick was thinking about this. I
Mhm.
think that'll be fun. That's what I'm looking forward to going forward. But
Yeah,
I've got one more thing on my list of preconceived notions versus reality.
absolutely. Let's hear it.
I'm calling it the Lotus Casino problem,
Mm.
which is the wow, we were there for 2 pages? That's it?
Yes. I will
There's a
let you
couple of
continue.
locations like that.
I will let you continue. I want you to know the only other thing that I had under this section was the same thing. Set pieces being much smaller than I remembered them.
Yeah. I'm gonna come back to the Lotus Casino first. I think the reason that this is how I am naming this whole phenomenon
Mhm.
is because, dude, every other piece of media, even down to like it seems like what people talk about and fans are interested in, would make you think that the Lotus Casino is this crazy important thing. And don't get me wrong, we get Nico and Bianca from there. Oh, wait, that's it. We spend 2 pages and get a main character who escapes it off page. It's so unimportant. And honestly, I think the Lotus Casino is pretty seamless. All things considered, it's kind of an enjoyable thing. But I just thought it was gonna be such a I thought it was gonna be basically half the chapter, or the whole chapter even, and
Uh-huh.
it's so short. And there are other things like that where you pop in and it's like, we spent a whole chapter on fucking Procrustes?
Yeah, I put down Lotus Casino number 1 because that was shocking. Genuinely.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure we talked about that. We're like, "Dude, this was, like, in our minds. We were so excited to be at the Lotus Casino, and we were barely there."
Yeah.
I felt that same way about Capture the Flag as
Yep.
well.
Yep.
The chapter for Capture the Flag, the majority of it is Percy sucking at most things, learning how to sword fight with Luke, and then he stands around for like a
Yeah.
couple of pages and then fights Clarice. Now, I want to emphasize just because these were shorter than we expected does not mean they were bad.
Agree.
This is preconceived notions versus reality, not, oh, I thought this would be good and it was bad. Just want to draw that distinction, make that entirely clear. I think that those chapters still do work pretty well, all things considered. And I understand why they're paced that way, but it's just a little shocking.
It is
Those things that
incredibly
were
shocking.
so clear in my mind that really, really stuck out as me remembering enjoying them, I must have done a lot of legwork on my end to fill in gaps and make it this big grandiose thing because Rick sure as shit didn't.
Yeah. I think
I would
the
even stand by like the Arch as well. That entire the combat with the Chimera and the Arch. I know you enjoyed that
I did.
action set piece, but again, that's pretty fast. It's they're walking around and doing a bunch of stupid brain dead bullshit for a bit, which we'll talked about that at length. You can listen to that
I
chapter.
figure.
But when it comes to the actual face down with Chimera and Echidna, it's like a page, maybe, right?
There's a
Like
lot
it
more
really
fallout.
yes,
You
yeah.
spend more time
There's
talking to a
build up.
Nereid.
Yes, there's exactly. There's a lot of build up and then you're in the river. That's effectively how it goes. Again, doesn't necessarily mean that it's paced poorly because of that. Just a little surprising.
Absolutely. The only other thing I was going to add in was just kind of piggybacking on your conversation about this doesn't mean it's bad, especially in like when it comes to the Capture the Flag chapter. That's another chapter where you get one of those Grover Percy moments, which is just phenomenal. The Luke Percy dynamic, also phenomenal because you really get to see
Mhm.
more of Percy and Lucas foils. It's a really I mean, you and I said in that point, if you wanted to just get a bite of Percy Jackson and get what it was and what it was like, Capture the Flag is such a good chapter for that. And yet you don't need to linger on the chapter of the flag. I would say that in a lot of places, it's a testament to Rick's economical writing, where he's like, this is just how I do these. And then sometimes it's like, we really could have used some more breathing room there. I think
Mhm.
really the only places that I can super think of that I would have wanted more of that would be probably, and we're gonna get to, I think next is favorite chapters. I would have loved a little bit more in the underworld stuff, personally, because it's
To a
really
certain
good.
extent. To a
Yeah,
certain extent.
I
You
I'm
say it's really good. You say it's really good, but I know we disagree a little bit on
we do
that.
disagree
I
on this.
love some of the underworld stuff. And some of it I was like, this is the most uninspired, boring slog. Like, what
L
happened, Rick?
Let me quantify. I am specifically talking about Percy in Hades' palace.
Mm,
That's the moment that I'm like, it went by super quick and it was phenomenal and I wanted more of it. And to be honest, I don't know that more would have benefited it, but like that's the one place where I'm like, man, I would have loved more of that.
fair. That's fair. Yes.
But do you have anything else you'd like to talk about before we move on to favorite chapters?
Yeah, actually. And
Yeah, please.
I would love to talk about the book as a starting point of the series, how we thought it did, and some of the themes that started to, be brought up, whether we thought it was successful or not. Do you want to do that now, or do you want to do that at the very end?
That's a great point. I had it in my notes as at the very end, but I think you make a good point that this is a good spot to talk about it. So let's move it here. Let's do it. Let's talk
Okay.
about Percy Jackson as the first in a series because it always was labeled as a book one. However, I do think it was written without the knowledge that it was a book one. I think it was written
Mhm.
with the intent of this could be its own thing, or if whoever publishes it likes it, we could make this a series. And oh boy, does it deserve to be a series.
Yes. Oh my god, yeah. If we're talking about this is a book that didn't know that it was gonna go anywhere, it's still a great book. It's a fun romp, it's satisfying. If we're talking about it as this is book 1, get you hooked, this is a fucking smash hit masterpiece. I mean, it's not even close. I can't think of another book, personally, that is in a series that makes me want more immediately like this one.
Dude, I'm thinking about other series that I've read. I don't think that any book one gets me as excited for the rest of what the series has to offer as this book. Because when it is at its peak, and it's not always at its peak, but when it is absolutely what you come to expect from Percy Jackson, delivered in a beautiful, well put together package. It sets things up really well. It's got great rereadability, which I think some
Mhm.
other starting points for series kind of lack on the rereadability front. This thing, you can come back to it time and time again. I know I have. And
Yeah,
every time you're going to find a little something more and you're going to enjoy it over and over again. I
yeah.
love this. And that's for a couple of reasons. It also establishes, I mean, obviously themes, but it
Mhm.
establishes vibes very well.
Oh, yeah.
The Camp Half-Blood vibe, perfectly captured. You get it. The gods, you get it. The monsters. I mean, come on, for the first, like, big monster that you see to be Medusa, that point forward, you get it. This novel sets you up for a perfect understanding of what Percy Jackson is.
Mhm. Yeah, and you had mentioned the themes, and I do love how this book sets up there are some more common, at what you'd expect themes, chosen family versus blood family. What does that mean, especially for kids, preteens, teens that are figuring out maybe some of them realize their family kinda sucks, the family that they're stuck with, but they're meeting these new people that maybe make them feel more loved and seen than the people that raised them, grew up beside them, and that it's okay to have that, that it's good and that it's healthy to have that, and that sometimes these people that aren't related by blood can provide things that your prototypical traditional family can. But also saying that your family, your blood family, has a role and can be important, but that doesn't mean that they are entitled to you point blank, period.
Absolutely. Jack, I could not have said that any better myself. I did write down that one of the themes that this novel really drives home, and I like that it doesn't resolve it. It's totally a theme, it exists, but there's no right answer, there's no resolution at all. toxic parenting, and just what it means to be part of family versus found family,
Mhm.
this novel rocks it out of the park.
Yeah.
Wonderful dichotomies between Percy and the friends he makes along the way, and in his case, actual genuine connections with family members that he has to grapple with what those mean to him and how to find those and find the correct meaning in those. It's really well done. And again, I love that we are going to have to continue to have this conversation via the narrative for the rest of the narrative.
Yes. Oh my god, yeah. I mean, the next 2 that I had, one of them is the themes about the cycles of abuse and neglect. That
Yeah.
is absolutely gonna be discussed even more, and that's some pretty heady and heavy stuff for middle grade fiction, but
Oh
it's
yeah.
important. Those are issues that affect everybody no matter your age, so it's good that there's something out there that addresses this that is targeted towards that audience. And another thing that I think goes over definitely the heads of, we'll say, the target audience that I picked up on that starts with this book, but really throughout the rest of the series is hammered home. The dangers of the rise of fascism and extremist pipelines.
Yes!
with,
Oh my god, I
with
wrote the same fucking thing. Brief
yeah.
interjection just to make sure we list all the ones that I think are relevant. Also, super big themes of, like, don't pollute, treat the planet
Mhm.
better,
Yep.
ecocentric
And
themes,
mhm.
great. And I'm gonna put it out there, ecocentric themes, great for kids, great for middle
Yeah.
grade fiction readers. All of the familial themes, the toxic parenting themes, great for the target audience. And I'm gonna let you have the floor on this one because I would love to hear your thoughts. As for the genuine political themes, they're subtle, but they're so fucking in there, and I think that that hopefully has ingrained and wormed its way into many a child's brain and influenced them positively, because it's not
Mhm.
beat you over the skull with it unless you're an adult and you're like, "Oh, I get it."
Mhm. Yeah. I wasn't expecting it. It definitely is subtle, and I only really noticed it because, again, of Luke, and we know where he goes. But Luke is a troubled young man who has self-isolated, who feels unaccomplished and like a failure, and is frustrated very justifiably with a system that does not represent him or protect him or even really protect his peers. And his concerns are not properly addressed because one, he is never given a platform to address those concerns. He is just told that that is how life is and it's unfair and it sucks, but deal with it. And because the only person or thing that does reach out and say, I have a solution for you is Kronos, which means that even if a Chiron or Zeus or whoever from the god side says, you know what, Luke, you raised some good points. We are currently in power and we will restructure to be more equitable and fair and just to you all. That doesn't happen.
Dude, you are hitting all of my fucking points. I literally, in my notes, I wrote down Hermes and Chiron specifically are stand-ins for institutional Democrats that say, "I hear you," and then never make any meaningful change.
Yep, pretty much. They are smug and smarmy and defeatist and spineless in a very dangerous way, which is looking at the rise of a threat, an existential threat to their rule, to the status quo, to the safety of literally millions, if not billions. And they say, well, we're the exception, or that can't happen to us, or so what if it happens? It's no big deal. Or we don't believe you, or we don't care, or some mixture of all of those. It is incredibly frustrating to see this, and this is nothing new. People are going to hear this and be like, ooh, Oh, they're talking current politics, and, like, yeah, of course we are, but also, this is not the first time in history that we've seen this. Fascism has existed longer than Donald Trump. I'll say it. Ooh, sorry. You can bleep that name if you want, but
Oh,
it's
no, I'm leaving the politics in here. By the way, hi, if you're listening this long and you've made it through 22 episodes of this show and you haven't fucking figured it out yet, yeah, Jack and I, we're not fascists.
yeah, believe
If
it or not.
you're a fascist, go fuck yourself and stop listening.
Ooh. Hey, man, I agree. But that's neither here nor there right now. The other thing that stuck out to me, specifically with this pipeline concept, is something that stuck out to me in the last chapter that I actually complained about. I was like, "Why the fuck is Luke talking about eugenics now? Where the fuck did this come from?"
Yeah,
And that is, to a bystander, exactly what a pipeline looks like when you're not paying attention. One day everything seems fine and hunky dory, and the next day, whoa, where did the eugenics stuff come from? Where did this hyper extreme view come from? It seems like it comes out of nowhere, but it never does. There is always a process behind it, always. And it comes from isolation, it comes from a lack of network and community, it comes from a lack of cross-cutting different identities and meeting different people from different backgrounds and beliefs, and it comes from a system and people running a system that do not address the needs of the masses. It
yeah.
is reactionary.
You're hitting all the same points I had. I'm loving your breakdown. The other thing I would add is part of what I think leads Luke to this pipeline is the Hermes cabin problem. Because all of these campers get put in there, Luke is a prototypical child of Hermes, but he doesn't get to feel proud of that identity because every individual that doesn't fit some normative stereotype gets shoved into that cabin. And a few lucky ones make it out, your Percys,
Mhm.
but Luke loses any sense of self effectively being put in an ice. I mean, God, think about the imagery of, as you were saying earlier, I had my one spot on the floor.
Yeah.
And suddenly it's like, yep, of course Luke is radicalized, dude. Like,
Yeah. Absolutely. Absolutely, of course. Duh.
and
Who
you know
who
what?
wouldn't be? I'm
Of
surprised it's just Luke at this point.
of course, people as well like Ares who think that they're not gonna be hurt by this. I just get to have a war. Isn't that fun?
Right. Ares is a profiteer off of this.
Yeah.
He is saying, "Oh, I'm gonna make so much off of this conflict, and I don't care who burns." He doesn't understand that it doesn't just stop with, oh, a war between the gods, and it doesn't just stop with, "Oh, now the humans are being wiped out." It never stops.
Yeah.
There
Yeah.
always has to be somebody literally put I mean this literally, under the gun. That is the only way a system like what Kronos wants, what fascists want, works. They need an enemy and they need a boot on a throat. And Ares thinks that he's the boot. He isn't. He's the throat in wait.
Mhm. And what I love about this whole metaphor is that is what we will see play out over the course of the novels. Full stop. Kronos is gonna be like,
Yeah.
"Tee hee, you thought you were part of my plan. Time for you and the gods to die."
Yeah. And again, this is not a I always struggle when people are like, "Oh, Rick was so prescient. How could he predict this?" He didn't predict this. He's like a kind of a historian, right? Wasn't he used to
Oh,
be a
he was a
history
history
teacher?
teacher.
Right.
Yeah.
So he literally is a historian. He's trained
Yep.
for this stuff. He understands the cycles of democracy into fascistic dictatorships. This is not new and novel. And for those listening at home that are scared shitless by everything that's happening right now, you should be. Thank you for paying attention. But you can at least take some solace in the fact that nothing that's happening is new. This is all playbook. They're not even being creative with what they're doing. It's the same old stuff. We're seeing it in Percy Jackson and the Olympians. The last place you might think to find it, but it's here. So I will step off my soapbox now.
That, I think, was an elegant summary, and I think you make a really good point in wrapping it up with art imitates life. But
Yes.
sometimes smart people make really good art, and they just write about life so that you can see
Mhm.
it. And 20 years later, you and I are reading this book and going, "Yeah, he got those patterns right. Nailed it. Well
Uh-huh.
done, Rick."
Yeah. Good job.
But why don't we move on to something a little bit more fun?
Yeah, bring some levity back into it.
Let's talk favorite chapters. So, favorite chapters. Let's start with number 3. What do you have as your number 3 favorite chapter of the novel, Jack?
For number 3, I had chapter 19. We find out the truth, sort of.
No fucking way, me too.
Yeah, hell yeah.
Do you wanna talk about it first?
Sure, yeah. It's it's just everything that happened with Hades was just sublime. The entirety of that back and forth was just so weighty and scary and ominous at first before devolving into some actual kind of comedy and you feeling sort of bad for Hades because he doesn't seem like that bad of a person. He's just really overwhelmed and thought that he finally had the upper hand on something, but definitely didn't. And like most things, he's the last to find out about something, it feels like. But the atmosphere was palpable. And that was just the latter half of the chapter. The first half of the chapter, where they're dealing with the shoes flying to the pit of Tartarus, I also thought was just a really tight, well done action sequence. I
Mhm.
thought there were some good stakes. It was weirdly gritty in comparison to some of the other action sequences throughout the
Yeah.
rest of the book. And I believe that that's the chapter where it's, they get close to Tartarus and then they hear this ancient, old, dead language, and it starts filling Percy with images of things he should never have seen or sensations he should never have felt, like
Yeah.
blood on an ancient stone altar and the rotten breath of a murderer. Like, what the fuck? Where did that come from?
Please tell me you were looking at your book when you read that because that was damn near a perfect quote.
I'm just that good, Connor. I got that shit locked away.
It's funny because you alluded to it earlier. Some of the previous Underworld stuff in chapter 19, I think, is what held it back from getting higher on my list.
Mhm.
But man, the Pit of Tartarus and the throne room sequence with Hades is so fucking baller.
Yeah.
It is so good. Hades, for a character that appears in literally one chapter, he is also up there for one of my favorite characters in the book. He's a total
Oh!
side character
Mhm.
in the grand scheme of things. There's no way he could have made it onto like our character discussion. There's just not enough to talk about.
Yeah.
But as you said, he toes this beautiful line between intensely intimidating and an actual buffoon who's like, "Oh,
Yeah.
how am I gonna pay for all of this?"
Yeah. Somebody who's clearly behind on his bills, even though
Yes.
he has infinite money. He still just has to do the paperwork for them, though. It's just so great. It's so fun, and I totally agree. I was also considering putting Hades in, like, one of my top favorite characters because he just makes such a phenomenal impression, but there isn't enough meat there, not yet.
I will be curious to see his future depictions because I have this image of Hades in my head across reading the novels as always being this kind of bumbling idiot type who's just he's, like, lovable, but in a weird sort of fucking way.
I don't even consider him necessarily a bumbling idiot. It's more of just he's like a bumbling dad. He's just always kind of frazzled and in over his head and so severely stressed.
Yeah, bumbling idiot is too harsh. He's downtrodden, and for a
Yes.
god, that seems so out of place.
Yes. Uh-huh.
I think that's
He's the
why I go with
first
bumbling
god.
idiot, but
Yeah, he's like the first god I feel like that we see that really struggles with his domain, and it makes sense. But there's something about Yep, I'm a god and I still have to deal with bureaucracy. Bound by that, unfortunately. That just kills me.
It's so incredibly funny and simultaneously intense.
Mhm.
Can't go wrong.
Now, before we go on to our number 2 and number 1 picks, I do have a few honorable mentions that were really duking it out for the number 3 spot. And
I
truthfully,
agree.
if you ask me on any other day, these might be number 3. Like, they
I
are
agree.
borderline interchangeable. I have chapter 3, Grover unexpectedly loses his pants. And I put that there not because, like, it's personal bias. From reading it this time around and the talk that we had on the podcast and the emotions and nostalgia that we ended up tying to it via this reread, it just makes me feel warm and happy.
Yeah.
It's just a personal favorite.
I actually wrote for chapter 3 because that was on my honorable mentions as well. The chapter excels, but what really sells it to me and why I don't think I will be able to read it the same way again is I think that is the chapter that I was confident that we were making something cool with this
Mhm,
podcast. Chapter 3 is like chapter 1 was fun, chapter 2 was fun. Chapter 3 I was like we've got something here and we have to keep going because I am having too much fun to stop.
mhm. That's
I'll
also
get you with
very
my
fair.
next one,
Yeah, let's hear it.
which is it didn't make it onto my list. Chapter 15, A God Buys Us Cheeseburgers.
That's what I had.
It's a solid chunk of Percy Jackson. It's
It is.
fun, it's entertaining. You get Ares being just a dick, but like he's reveling in it. And so you get to get
Mhm.
mad with Percy and you get to see some great teamwork. There's good jokes. It's just a very solid all around chapter and it encapsulates everything you want out of it. It's just a fun, well rounded chapter.
Yeah, I agree. Nothing more to add. That's one of those chapters that if somebody were to say, "I cannot read this entire book. For some reason, I am unable to. I am only able to read 1 chapter." That is one of the chapters that I'd be like, "You should read this."
Yeah, highly recommendable. Yeah. All right.
Yeah.
I've got one
I
left on
I also
my
have 1 left.
honorable mentions.
Me too.
I'll be interested to see if it's the same as yours since we've been
Me
so
too.
aligned.
Yes. The last one that I had in my honorable mentions was chapter 8, We
No
Capture a
fucking
Flag.
way.
I do want everybody to know we have not seen each other's lists.
I was
I have
about to
no
say
idea what
people are
he's
gonna
got.
think we fucking planned this.
Yeah, it's a really good chapter all around. It's a good chunk of Percy Jackson. The ending after Percy gets claimed where Chiron says, "The Earthshaker, the god of the seas, son of Poseidon," is just so fucking hype. The battle with Clarice is also really dope. And honestly, I really enjoyed all of the rest of the chapter prior to Capture the Flag, which is
Yeah.
most of the chapter, where Percy's just going around Camp Half-Blood and learning that he kinda sucks at most things,
And
except
largely
for
sucking.
yeah, except for canoeing and sword fighting. He's actually kinda decent at that, and he gets some really solid interactions with Luke, which of course buys it a bunch of brownie points.
See, what I like about it as well, and it of course, it didn't make it onto my top 3, but you get a moment with Luke, you get a moment with Annabeth, you get a moment with Grover, you get a moment with Clarice, you get a moment with Chiron, you get so many little tastes
Mhm.
of setup and all these things. Percy gets his shit pushed in the fight, which
Yeah.
feels incredibly good, weirdly, because it's after this whole day of failure, right? And it's not really a day. I believe the chapter takes place over a week, but it emphasizes where he's starting and makes where he's going so much better. And I think that's really
Mhm.
cool. Also, Jack, you were talking about all of these epithets of Poseidon. I noticed you left out the last one, father of horses. It's the most
Yeah.
important. That's why it comes last.
That's why it comes last. How could I forget? Silly me. Sorry,
No.
I only have so much space in my head for cool lines from Percy Jackson, and Father of Horses got replaced with the rotten breath of a murderer.
Honestly, so valid. You ready to move on to number 2?
Let's see if our list is still exactly the same. So, we're the same at number 3. For number 2, the number 2 spot, I put chapter 21, I Settle My Tab.
Mm. Okay, so this is where we're gonna differ. I was literally about to say, I think my 1 and my 2 are interchangeable on any given day, more so than my 3 and my honorable mentions.
Mhm.
For my number 2, I put We Visit the Garden Gnome Emporium.
Oh, uh-huh.
Alright, so why is I Settle My Tab your number 2?
I feel like everything wraps up so succinctly and so satisfyingly in this chapter. There is a weight, a grandiosity to it. It is incredibly impressive. Not only that we're finally on Mount Olympus, but the gods feel like the gods in this. We are in the presence of Zeus and Poseidon, and they are both on the brink of war, and it feels like it. The kitty gloves are off. There are no jokes, there's no sarcastic little quips. It feels like it is given the respect that that chapter and the conclusion of the book deserves. And I love that we get some really profound, if not brief, interactions between Percy and Poseidon. And we see that there is this strained relationship and that they are both enigmatic to one another, like the sea. They don't know what to think of each other. It's not immediately wrapped up and everything's fine. It's all right. Well, I guess we met. That's cool. What now? Yeah. What now? And that's where it ends. That's where that relationship goes. And what follows next is what actions will come after that very light lip service that was provided.
It is an intense chapter, and I've got more
Mhm.
thoughts, so I'll save mine for later.
Okay. Let's hear yours though. Why is We Visit the Garden Gnome Emporium your number 2?
We, just a moment ago, talked about some chapters, chapter 8, chapter 15, which are beautiful encapsulated bites of Percy Jackson. But if I had to pick one from this entire book as like I need to give you the idea of what Percy Jackson is, I am picking chapter 11, We Visit the Garden Gnome Emporium. It
Mhm.
has solid action that is intense, and we talked about the horror aspect. I'm not normally one for horror, but this plays it really well in a way that seamlessly integrates into the rest of the narrative or provides this single chapter a beginning, a middle, and an end. We get to see our team work together, but also work against one another. We've got some really great character interplay as they're still figuring things out. And hey, man, I'm clearly a nerd for mythology. This is basically just a flat 1-to-1 retelling of Perseus killing Medusa. I think that is so fucking cool that alone earned it a spot on my list. And honestly, I must make it clear, if my number 1 earned a perfect score of 100, this earned a score of 99.9.
Mhm.
It is an immaculate, tightly written chapter that is punchy and exciting to read, and I just love it. It is quintessential Percy Jackson. It is the beating lifeblood, the beating heart of what Percy Jackson should be and is.
Yeah, very good points. But now, Connor, the big kahuna, the king of kings, our gold medal, my number 1 chapter for Percy Jackson Book 1, The Lightning Thief, is chapter 12. We Get Advice from a Poodle.
No!
No, no, I'm fucking with you. Connor, you took my talking points, you asshole. It's chapter 11. We visit the Garden Gnome Emporium.
Yep.
That's my number one. I mean, it's not. I would honestly go so far as to say that it is not as close as you had set it out to be. If I settle my tab is like a 95, this is a 100. There's not a thing I would change. It is, as you said, and this is in my notes that I'm looking at right now, the quintessential Percy Jackson. This is it. This is the platonic form of Percy Jackson, distilled into one tight, perfect chapter. This could be sold as a short story and it would be just as successful. Like,
It'd be
this
a
is
perfect short
just,
story.
yes, it is a master class in writing several different genres, and the fact that it is just one chapter in a larger book is fucking insane to me. So, again, you took all my talking points, so I will leave it at that. That is my number one, chapter 11.
I love that. And honestly, I want you to know I was a little worried that our top chapters would be the same. So I did put 21 I Settle My Tab as my number 1, in part to be contrarian,
Mhm.
but I do have a few points to back it up that you actually did not steal. So,
Okay.
the reason that 21 I Settle My Tab ended up being my absolute number 1 best chapter of the book is because I was trying to think about it from a book perspective. 11, We Visit the Garden Gnome Emporium, is independent. It is a perfect standalone chapter. 21 represents everything the book is about. Those themes we talked about the dangers of war and bad politics, everything we talked about in familial dynamics. And you did take this point out of my mouth. Percy and Poseidon's sort of enigmatic, almost inability to understand one another in that moment, and yet this mutual understanding of that mystery between how they really feel is perfect. It perfectly summarizes everything this book is trying to tell you about what it means to have a parent-child dynamic and all of the complexities and intrigue that goes with that. And it juxtaposes that against Sally Jackson and Smelly Gabe. And you get this wonderful resolution to all of that as well. And please note, I say wonderful in a literary sense, because what's wonderful about it is suddenly you get this revelation for Percy around Sally's home life.
Yeah.
And it flips the whole fucking narrative on its head to some extent, where you're like, holy shit, he's been fighting for this the whole book, and we didn't even know the extent of why. Percy didn't even know the extent of why. And to have that all placed directly in opposition to the interaction with Poseidon and Poseidon's shitty roommate, in a certain sense,
Mhm.
of Zeus is fascinating. And I think because of the way it encapsulates those themes of the novel while still, even without the quips, and this is another part of why 21 excels, even without the quips and the snark and the sass, Percy is still Percy. The character is still there
Mhm.
at its core in this most uncharacteristic chapter. And I think that is fascinating. And I think it's, in a very different way, a wonderful lesson in writing. Because 11, again, it's this wonderful self contained story. 21 is a culmination that sits atop everything that came before it. And I love that. I love that it could only exist in this way in this book.
Yeah, that's beautifully put. But have you considered Grover beating the shit out of Medusa?
Dude,
Have
I
you
did.
considered that
It's
though?
so good.
Genuinely, I think it's really a testament, one, how in sync we are, but two, just how good this book is, that our lists are very similar for some pretty key reasons. But we can't always stay at the highest highs, Connor. What is that thing in Ratatouille? The job of a critic is often super fun because you get to shit on stuff. Something like that.
Something like that.
Yeah, I think that's what the guy said in
Gotta go watch
Ratatouille. Being a critic is fun because shitting on stuff is a good time. Quote me on that. Let's talk about our your least favorite chapter. We're not gonna do a bottom 3. I do have a couple honorable mentions, but I do have listed out what is my least favorite chapter.
Same. Same. Do you think we'll be in sync again?
Kinda hoping we're not,
I
because
I
I would
agree.
love to hear why you dislike something different than me so much. So, I do have 2 honorable mentions. One of them is 3 old ladies knit the socks of death,
Mhm.
which might be controversial because it is chapter 2. It's so early on, and I feel like maybe we should give a little bit of a pass to a chapter early on. But no, early chapters don't deserve a pass because this is not a pilot of a TV show. This is a book that you can go back and reread and tweak and perfect everything before it goes out. And Three Old Ladies Knit the Socks of Death is not only one, kind of boring, but two, it feels like a pilot episode with material and plot holes that do not follow the world's established mechanics that will be established in the ensuing chapters. This is where we get Chiron and Grover not able to smell Percy as he's skulking around. This is where we get Chiron
And
walking
also just
around
out
the
of
halls
character.
and just totally out of character. This is where we get a lot of the most toxic and weird gaslighting. This is where we get a lot of dancing around. Oh no, they never make it past 6th grade. Why are we doing this? They never make it past 11. It's just stuff that I know for starting a book is supposed to hook you, but is incredibly irritating when you read the rest of the book. You're like, why the fuck did they do that? All of that was so unnecessary, or at the very least, could have been written a bit better and made it make more sense. So
Damn, that's
that's
your
why
honorable mention?
that's my honorable mention.
I neglected to put chapter 2 on my honorable mentions. I thought about it, and I thought the socks moment, it bumped it out of that category for me, but also, I wanted to isolate a specific fucking chapter that I put in my honorable mentions because it specifically fucking wronged me, okay? And I
Uh-huh.
I'm I couldn't justify putting it as my least favorite chapter. But
Uh-huh.
god damn it, if there isn't a just plain empty fucking chapter that I forgot about that made me look a fool. So my honorable mention is chapter 12. We get advice from a poodle. Need
Hey
I
man,
say
I get it.
more?
That would be a sore spot for me too. I do have one more honorable mention. I don't know if you have multiple, but
Nope,
I am
I
gonna throw
just
this out
had the
there,
one. I had a vendetta against chapter 12, so
and
it's the
that
one
is
honorable mention. It doesn't even get to be first place, damn it.
that's so fair. My other honorable mention, and this one is what was really duking it out for last place. Three Old Ladies Knit the Socks of Death, that was there just because it really frustrated me. This one is like, you are really vying for last. Chapter 5, I play Pinochle with a horse. I found it very boring, and this is just the entire chapter where Chiron is fucking stupid the entire time. Just everything he says and does is dumb and stupid, and it's all of the worst parts about chapter 2, but just, I feel like, exploding on one specific character, Chiron. So, that was my proper honorable mention before we get into my worst chapter. But it sounds like, Connor, I think I know what your worst chapter is.
Yeah, you wanna hear my number 1 worst chapter?
Let's hear it.
Chapter 5, I play Pinochle with a horse. This
Uh-huh.
one's got everything in it, Jack. A word that I mispronounced, and so half of our audience felt the need to personally text me and let me know I said it wrong? Thanks,
Uh-huh.
everyone. I'm looking at you, mom. Okay, but beyond that, Jack, I try not to hide this. I have ADHD. This chapter was so fucking boring. I reread these before I came here to make sure that I wasn't gonna be shitting on chapters for no reason. This is the chapter of everyone is stupid or just sits there and exposits at you for a whole fucking page. Oh my god, it's awful. It's terrible. You get the worst bits of everyone. There's this and at the time I was like, "Oh, that's neat. She like pops out from being invisible." No, it's fucking stupid. Why was Annabeth just standing around invisible at camp?
She was aura farming.
Dude, she was. Why? That's so unlike her.
She's a child of Athena. You wouldn't get it.
Uh, honestly,
I get it.
chapter 5 fails on the most fundamental thing. This is a Percy Jackson novel. Everything about this book, even in the slow chapters, is normally punchy and fun. I gave chapter 12 some shit as my honorable mention for worst chapter, but at least that has some jokes that I genuinely remember. Percy being like, I said hi to the poodle. That's funny.
Mhm.
Okay. The discussion around Pan, that's interesting. I don't think there is a single redeeming quality that I enjoyed from chapter 5.
Yeah. My face is scrunched up and I'm nodding right now. I can't dispute you. I really can't.
Oh, well, I've
Now,
lit up my
yep,
fire.
I was gonna
What do you
say,
have for number 1, Jack?
don't give yourself an aneurysm. Now, this might be a somewhat controversial pick because it is not the worst chapter in terms of mechanics. It is not the worst chapter in terms of plot holes or really anything that I've been complaining about before. But this is my least favorite chapter because it has the greatest sin of all being wasted potential. It
Mm.
is forgettable, unnecessary, and there are certain things, very little things that Jack, clung on to that do not matter that piss me the fuck off when I think about this chapter. And that is chapter 17, We Shop for Waterbeds. I've been holding off on talking about Procrustes at length throughout this entire discussion, and we mentioned him briefly when we were talking about pacing.
Yeah, hold
This
on.
is
I
one of those.
specifically remember you saying, "I hope I never see that man in his waterbeds again."
Yes, and I stand by that because he is everything that I feel like is wrong with these books when Rick is just phoning it in and being kinda lazy. There could have been a really cool set piece right before they're in the underworld, and instead we get fucking Procrustes stretching out a bunch of kids on a bed. Are you kidding me? I didn't even remember that was a thing. This is a major set piece. They are fighting a creature, a person of myth. They are getting tortured actively, and this is also when Percy's at his most sadistic. But it's so unnecessary, and I'm just begging to get to the underworld so fucking bad at this point that I blocked it from my memory. I totally forgot it. And it's probably because when I was rereading this as a kid, I was like, fuck Procrustes, and just skip to the good shit.
It's also one of the very few 2-chapter sets of slower things because I think Procrustes is supposed to feel like the big moment. So you do the chapter where you're just in the back of a truck the whole time and then Lotus Casino, and then you
Uh-huh.
transfer into this.
It's just so boring. And that's an unforgivable sin. It's boring. And I'd like to point out this is the fucking chapter where Annabeth does the dumbest thing imaginable and gives up the infinite money card to a random taxi driver, and we never hear about it again, even though the entire book was dealing with them being fucking poor and starving and not having money.
You know what's even better about that? Is and I just thought about this right now, they all got one.
Oh, no, I was getting to that, Connor. Percy and Grover also had them. I don't think we ever hear about them ever again. There's a
No,
good chance Grover ate his, and Percy probably lost it or forgot about it.
he does have ADHD, that's common. Honestly, I would have appreciated that answer better than Annabeth giving it away.
Literally giving it away. And they don't even get rid of it in a clever way. They act like it doesn't even matter. That just chaps my ass more than any stupid bullshit Chiron said. I thought about that for the rest of the book, and I bit my tongue on multiple occasions bringing it up because I knew that I'd be the only fucking person that actually cared. But that is why chapter 17 is my least favorite. It's boring, it's forgettable, and the one reason I'm gonna fucking remember that chapter now is because Annabeth did the dumbest thing imaginable.
Hold on, hold on. I'm just now remembering when we were recording chapter 20, which is the fight with Ares, and they're collecting money. They're talking
Oh,
about
yeah.
passing the hat around, and I was
Mhm.
like, "Oh, how unrealistic that they're, like, collecting cash for a plane ticket," and you were like, "That's what you take issue with?" You didn't say anything at the time. It has just occurred to me, this is why you were so upset.
Correct. That is
That
uh-huh.
Yeah, I get it. Honestly, I understand.
So, we got that out of our system, but now we're gonna go back to some good stuff. Connor, you've put in a lot of effort throughout this podcast, a lot of effort researching and then sharing the myths behind the mythology. And we are not gonna do our bottom 3 myths because truthfully, I don't think there are worst myths. We're just gonna share our top 3. Now, I think this time let's start with honorable mentions. I do have 2 of them.
Okay. I've got 3. I told you I was gonna pick so many. Thank you all
I'm
for
sure.
listening to me ramble and rant about mythology. This is so fucking fun, and even though it's a ton of work, it is so worth it, and I hope you all enjoy it thoroughly. So, yeah, I took the opportunity to celebrate, do a little victory lap.
I'll just run through these kinda quickly because I'm gonna have far less to say about them than you are, I'm sure. But my honorable mentions, chapter 3, The Birth of Heracles, and chapter 6, Hermes Caduceus.
Okay, it sounds like we might align again.
Okay. I love The Birth of Heracles. I just thought that was comedy gold. I just thought it was funny. The idea that the Milky Way happened because he just suckled on a teat too hard and bit it, and Hera was like, "Fuck!" It's just I felt like I was listening to an episode of, like, Tom and Jerry.
Yeah.
It's just cartoonish. For Hermes Caduceus, it is exclusively because of the story where he, like, turns into a woman or something, because these snakes were fucking, and then
Yep.
he has to wait for a bunch of time to find snakes fucking again, and he bops them on the head. He's like, "Ah, there you are, you horny snakes." He bops them on the head again, and then he's just a guy again, and that's the myth. He's just a girl for a bit because he had to wait for snakes to be horny.
Oh, man. Yeah, so that's Tiresias, and it's
Right.
7 years. He lives 7 years as a woman because he smacked 2 snakes getting it on, and he got punished for that.
Yeah.
It's a good myth.
It's
No,
just fun.
I also had as my honorable mentions both The Birth of Heracles from chapter 3 and Hermes Caduceus from chapter 6. I also had chapter 8's Hellhounds deep dive on here because that one is particularly special to me. I'm going to start by talking about Hellhounds. In retrospect and having listened to it again, I don't think it's my absolute best work, but that was the first time that I really put myself out and did a deep dive. I said, we're only doing one myth, so I have to do something unique and interesting. And I have, as an adult, gotten a dog for the first time. So I didn't spend a lot of time growing up being interested in humanity's relationship to dogs because I didn't have them. But now having one of my own, that's very special and important. And it was really cool to reconnect with ages and ages of human stories, seeing these creatures in a very interesting, patternistic way. I love that I uncovered something that I did not know before that makes so much sense when you think about it. The idea that hellhounds come out of the understanding that dogs are scavengers is fascinating. I had so much fun and it really made me feel like I saw my own potential.
Absolutely, man.
As for the other 2, a lot of the same things you said.
Mhm.
Hermes Caduceus, dude, that's just a really fucking funny myth. It's short enough, and it honestly was low effort enough that I didn't feel good putting it on my top 3 list,
Yeah.
but it is very, very fun. And The Birth of Heracles, that was one that I went back and did again. So for those of you at home, I don't know if we mentioned it in the episode or not, but Jack and I went back and re-recorded that because the original version, I was like, Jack, it's just not as good as I want it to be. And I was so happy with how it turned out. That was right around the time of Hellhounds when I was like, I can do better, I can present more cleanly, and it's just such a fun one on top of it.
But that said, now you get to pick your favorite children, Connor. So we'll
Oh,
start
I
with you.
know.
What's your number 3?
Number 3, I put Poseidon, the father of horses from chapter 16. Now,
Okay.
I myself am not a fan of horses, but much like the Hellhounds one, it was incredibly fascinating to go down this rabbit hole and learn about humanity's complicated and interwoven relationship with these beasts of burden and how that played into our cultural ideas of what deities should represent and how those real world timelines tie into the domestication of horses, or rather, how those real world timelines of the domestication of horses tie into when these stories were written and how they came about. It's just fascinating. Again, it's a deeper dive. I spent a little bit more time on it, and I really put out something that I'm very proud of. And I just thought it was so cool and so informational. This one gets onto the top 3 list for being informational.
And we love some edutainment, Connor. I wish that my number 3 was as profound and well thought out as yours. But my number 3 was chapter 10, which was the Contest of Athens, or as I like to call it, the brain dead lunacy of Poseidon and his bumbling son.
No,
You're gonna see a common theme with my favorite myths are ones that just make me chuckle. And this one just killed me. There's always something funny just from what I knew ahead of time, which was that when the city of Athens was choosing their patron, Athena's like, here is a new type of food. It's an olive tree. I made this. You can feed yourselves. There's so much you can do with the olive tree. You can use its wood, you can use its leaves, you can use the olives itself. They're like, that's great. What about you, Poseidon? He's like, check it out, fuckers. Smashes his trident on the ground, and there's an unusable saltwater spring that just sprouts. Where he's like, oh, all right. So what do we do with that? He's like, revel in its glory, man. You can't drink from it, but why would you? It looks dope. Look at this thing. And they're like, all right, well, clearly we're going to choose Athena. And then Poseidon's like, yo, what? What? He starts freaking out. Like, I can't take this. I refuse. And you know what? Fuck you, Ares. And points up at the sky. And Ares is just like eating a sandwich for the one time, not actually doing anything wrong. He's like, what the fuck did I do? To which the people of Athens were like, you know what? That's uncalled for. We'll name a hill after you. So now Poseidon's double pissed because now he's got double nothing named after him. He didn't even get that hill over there. Fucking Ares did. So then he's like, you know what? That's it. Oh, I'm mad. Son, my favorite son, I want you to go and chop down that tree. Go ahead, do it in my name. And his son fucking stumbles over and like trips on a ladybug and fucking cuts himself with his own axe and kills himself.
He kills himself.
He kills himself. And that's why Poseidon, apologies. He kills himself with an axe. So then Poseidon's like, Ares,
Yep.
yo, I can't stand you and your weapons. And then Ares is like, what? Why do you say fuck me? What did I do? It's just ridiculous. It's everything tangential to the myth that just fucking annihilates me. It's comedy gold. It's just slapstick Looney Tunes humor.
Yes. Yep. I agree with everything you said.
What
I
about
have
number
more to
2,
say,
Connor?
but
Oh, you have more to say.
oh, no, we'll save it.
I see. All right. Well, let's hear your number 2 then.
My number 2 is from chapter 13 and 14, the mega episode. It is blameless Bellerophon slays the Chimera. What is there to
Good one.
say? He's blameless.
He's
He
simply
can
blameless.
do no wrong.
Uh-huh, yeah.
He kills so many people. And they're like, oh, well, it's Bellerophon. Come on, man. Look at him. You can't fuck with the guy. I love the just as you put it, it's not quite to the same effect as the Contest of Athens, but some of the Looney Tunes ass shit that happens. The babe, he wouldn't sleep with me. Please kill him. Like, the son of the god. You've seen him? He's huge. And so the way he fucking forwards him off, he writes a letter. He's like, please kill this man. And then they just have a rager for an entire week before he
Uh-huh.
opens the letter and is like, oh shit. And then he literally sends all the king's horses and all the king's men, and they all die every time. It's
Yeah.
beautiful. I love it. It is fantastic. And it's got a cool monster. So I got to do research on the Chimera as well and talk about depictions of that.
Mhm.
Blameless Bellerophon gets my number 2 spot.
And I will have more to say about that later as well. Hint, hint. My number 2 was from chapter 17, and that was specifically the trials of Theseus. Or as I call it, Theseus and the power of focused violence. This
Yes.
is a tale of a very angry, very brutal man that stopped at nothing to just murder every roadblock in his way in the most ironic fashion possible, or if he wasn't feeling creative, just bludgeoning them with a club. I love that he fights a guy who's specifically known for using a club and smashing people into the earth. Not just like splatting them, but like sending them into the ground. Again, like a Looney Tune. And what does Theseus do at this roadblock? He takes the club and smashes his fucking skull in.
Yes.
And then he comes across Procrustes. There's Procrustes again. He did one thing right.
Yep.
He's like, "Oh, I'm gonna Theseus, you're not gonna fit this bed right." And Theseus says, "All right, you're gonna try and kill me. I'm gonna murder you exactly how you'd murder me." And he starts cutting them into pieces. And then he just keeps going, "Do, do, 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 do," no consequences. And he comes across the guy that keeps tearing people limb from limb between trees that he
Oh,
bends. And Theseus is like, "Oh, fuck, this guy wants to tear me apart with trees? Well, unfortunately for you, I'm a psycho, and I've already thought of 50 different ways to kill you, but you know what I've landed on? That's right. I'm gonna use my club to bludgeon you, and then put you in the trees you were gonna put me into, and I'm gonna rip you limb from limb." And he's lauded as a hero. He's lauded as
yeah.
a hero because all of these roadblocks that he came across, all these people that he killed, everybody was like, "Yeah, those guys sucked." Holy shit. Yeah, those guys were awful. You actually did the world a huge favor. But oh my god, you couldn't have used like a sword or something? You had to turn their faces into a fine paste with a bludgeoning instrument and also tear them and quarter them limb from limb and chop them into pieces? Did you have to do that? No. Are we arguing with the results? Also, no. And that's why Theseus is number 2. I just love a guy that can murder his way to the top.
Yeah, man, those are the Athenians. They said, well, hard to argue with pragmatism.
Yeah, you know what? Those guys were not great, and you took care of them. Hey, uh, sometimes the easiest solution's the best one.
Jack, I have to be honest with you.
Yes.
I was really struggling with where to put this one in my top 3 list. So I just chose to leave it off because I knew you would include it. But I
Okay.
love it too. So it's not
Yeah.
on my list, but I agree. This one is so much fun.
Mhm.
Oh,
All
man.
right, Connor. Let's hear your favoritist, your most favoritist child ever of all time.
If I had to pick a favorite child, and I did, I would pick Chapter 10's The Contest of Athens
Very
for
fair.
all the points that you have said. You have outlined it beautifully and regaled us with just a phenomenal retelling. And I don't know if you noticed, I was giggling the whole time. I can't help myself. It's just fucking funny. And I did mention I have some other reasons, so I'll put them in first before I just say it's funny over and over. This one, outside of just being funny, I liked that it was a myth that people would already know. And you would think, yeah, it's real simple. She showed up, gave a tree, he gave a spring, they moved on. And it just gets so much better, and you would never expect it because it really doesn't need to be more than 2 sentences. But when it is, it just keeps on giving. Secondly, it does include Pseudo Apollodorus. I feel like that's worth adding as a caveat for this list.
Uh-huh.
I love the guy, whoever they may be.
That's very fair. Gotta shout out our boy.
And again, it kept giving. You would expect it to be over, and then it kept going, it kept going with shit that should not be related. And it is. It's perfect.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
perfect.
And you know what, Connor? I really do think that segues seamlessly into my number one, which is chapter 13 and 14, Blameless Bellerophon,
Yeah.
aka the OG Chad Thundercock. I mean, once again, you hit on a lot of my points, but there's something to be said about a guy who's literally just the best, and
Yes.
people hate him for it, but enough people love him for it that the people that hate him for it can't do anything about it. It's so fun. Literally that entire time you were telling the myth, I think I had to mute myself because I was, like, guffawing belly laughing. You said that he has long flowing locks and rippling muscles and specifically is well endowed. Like, that's
A
just something that is noted.
specifically large penis.
He's got a fat fucking dong. People wanna fuck him. He doesn't fuck somebody because he's, like, got honor. She's like, "Kill that guy," like you said, and the guy that's like, "Oh, yes, of course, my lady." Whoa. The guy on the demigod flying horse with the golden saddle and is clearly favored by the gods? Yeah, I'm not doing that. He is met with a feast. He becomes friends with everybody from the feast, but yeah, there's that letter, and so the king's like, "Oh man, what do I gotta do?" And you hit on a lot of it, but the shit that is thrown at him is just
Yeah.
ridiculous that he overcomes seemingly with ease. They try to
Yes.
assassinate him. They're like, "Oh, there's this big ass monster that's attacking the countryside. Nobody's been able to get close." Kills that. Said, "Hey, fight the Amazons." They're this, like,
Yep.
tribe of warrior women that are blessed divine. He fucking slaughters all of
Not one
them.
Amazon, an army of them.
Yes, the army of the Amazons
The entire
takes
thing,
care of
an
the
entire other warrior nation.
Yes, multiple warrior nations brought to their knees by this one guy, and he does so with a smile on his face. He's like, "Listen, I'm glad I could help you, man. What else do you need?" And it eventually just gets to the point where the guy's like, "You know what? Not only am I not gonna kill you, here's half of all of my stuff, and you can fuck my daughter."
Everything I own, including my flesh and blood.
Including my most precious darling daughter. Here you go, man. Just be my pal, will ya? And of course, the entire time, Bellerophon, none the wiser's like, "I love this guy. This guy's awesome. Of course I'll marry your daughter. I'd love to own part of your kingdom. What a good king."
He is. He's just doing him favors the whole
He
time. He's like,
is!
"Oh, okay, the Amazons cause you a problem. No problem. I'll get rid of them."
Yeah.
And this
It's
guy's just
his, like, pure-hearted ignorance, and I know that it's weird saying pure-hearted because he killed so many people and so many things, but he does it with the best of intentions every time, which is the difference between Bellerophon and Theseus. Theseus just does it because he's a fucking psychopath. Bellerophon does it because he thinks it's actively helping some sort of greater good. He's kinda like Superman.
Yeah, but he's bizarro.
Yeah, kinda, yeah. it just tickles me, and I know he's basic, and I know that it's kinda boring that there's just this untouchable favored guy from the gods, but it's just the shit that he is put through, that he comes out the other side still smiling, just annihilates me.
It's so fun. I mean, that was my number 2 for a reason. It
Mhm.
is another just quality good time, and that one was really fun because I'd never heard of that one before.
Now, before we wrap up properly for the book, I know, Connor, we are very interested in what everyone at home thinks for their favorite chapter and least favorite chapter and their favorite myths as well. So we're going to have polls available.
The polls will be wherever you are listening on Spotify. There is a poll just in Spotify, should be in the UI. On YouTube, you can go over to our community page and you will see the poll there. And on Apple, don't worry, you can't vote there, but we've got you covered. There's a link in the description to a Google form where you can fill it out. And that Google form will be on all versions of the episode if you just check the episode description. We would love to know what your favorite myths are. We've obviously gotten to share ours, but we're always looking to learn and improve. Well, we're also looking to make a little bit of a special treat. My favorite episodes, Jack's favorite episodes, and your favorite episodes all cut into one super cut so that you can enjoy all your favorite myths in one place.
And with that, Connor, book one is officially in the rear view mirror. There is nothing more to go over or discuss. The tank is dry, but the journey's only really just begun because we've still got a whole lot of books ahead of us. But the next step on our journey is the Sea of Monsters. So, just real quickly, before we dive into that book, I want to hear some of your hopes and expectations for the Sea of Monsters.
My hopes, I'll start with my hopes around characters. I really hope that I enjoy Tyson as a character, just first and foremost. I don't remember enjoying him on my previous read throughs, so I want him to be good. But also, I hope Tantalus is as funny as I remember him, because I remember Tantalus as a camp counselor during the Sea of Monsters, but I actually cannot remember why. So I assume that Dionysus is just out for plot reasons. But I'm dying to know if that guy is as funny as I thought he was as a kid. And on the whole, I'm just hoping that it lives up to the fun we had for the first novel because that was a blast. And
Yeah.
I know for a lot of people, Sea of Monsters is kind of panned. So I'm hoping that we get as much enjoyment out of it.
Yeah. I remember next to nothing about this book. My spotty memory, this is one of the biggest spots. Truthfully, one of the only things that I remember just off the top of my head is that I did not like Tyson reading it growing up. And I agree. I really hope that I change my tune. I've had that happen for other characters, as we've talked about at length. And I would really love for that to be the case with him. More importantly, just overall, I'm very curious to see and hope that Rick keeps things fresh and this next book doesn't feel samey in a boring way. I think you hit the nail on the head earlier when you said that this book really settles the vibes and aesthetic and the flavor. We use the term the flavor a lot in this podcast, but we get a feel of what Percy Jackson is supposed to be.
Yeah.
I'm cool with that. I just want to see an evolution in a positive direction. And I'm going to keep an open mind, but I also do know that this is, yeah, the least liked book in the series. I am very curious to see why that is. I'm a little nervous. I don't want to read something that I actively dislike, but we'll see. We will see.
I agree.
You
Is
get it?
there anything
You get
else?
it? We'll see. We'll see.
Oh.
We've been recording for like 3 hours. That's the best I got, man.
That's so valid. I was going to say, is there anything else that you would like to talk about before we put Percy Jackson and the Olympians, Book 1, The Lightning Thief, in the rear view?
This has been an awesome journey, and I'm glad that this is just a brief pit stop on a much longer and windier road. I am so glad that we've been doing this podcast. It has genuinely been the highlight of my week to read and mark up this children's book and record. And for those at home, I think the moral of this book, we've talked about a lot of the different takeaways: wear a seatbelt, be kind to nature, but perhaps the most important that Percy taught us: it's okay to be impertinent when it's called for. Be impertinent, folks.
And with that, we will see you next time as we dive into Percy Jackson and the Olympians, Book 2, The Sea of Monsters.
See ya.
Thanks for listening. If you enjoyed this podcast and want to support our content, please be sure to leave a review, share with your friend, and follow us on all your favorite podcast platforms. Until next time, this has been Notes from the Oracle. Because I'd hate to just be a dick for the sake of being a dick.
That's fair. That's fair, and I appreciate that. Hold on, I'm gonna turn my light really quick. It got really dark really fast.
That is how sunsets work.
Don't do that. Don't say that's how I know that's how sunsets work. It got darker because there were clouds that came out of nowhere, okay? It's different. It wasn't sunset dark, it was dark dark. Don't you fucking dare. I wouldn't want to be a dick to you. Is immediately a dick. Wow.